Hi there, Jeannie. So good to have you here.
So good to
Uh,
be here.
yeah. And before we turned the recording on, I was reading a paragraph that you had written when we were in touch. And I think it's a great way to begin. So I'm going to share it again so our listeners um, can hear it. And you said, I'm so excited to dive into the questions with you. All of it sounds juicy. What's alive for me, besides what you previously mentioned, is the question of choice. And I know this is up for everybody, anybody listening to this in our community. This is a big deal. So you're not alone. And what do I truly want? Great question. How to choose what goals, intentions to focus on in 2024 and not have it be a choice from the ego, but higher self. And how to choose if I'm not the doer, non-duality, or as the Course suggests, let it be chosen for me. And if somebody is a devout Christian, then it would be Christ choosing for you. So this dilemma comes up whether you're a course student, whether you want to live a surrendered life, whether you're a Christian, whether, uh, it's not just these few paths. And you've given examples of doing this in your own life. Um, to talk about how we came together, because I think it demonstrates, at least from my point of view, how I live. You may have heard things like the publisher was chosen, the book coach was chosen, like because it came in my email or it came where I was. And that you just get the bottom line, like in the final moment. But a lot of times when we're not living from ourselves as separate people, being the chooser, it's very vague, like this was. So I asked you after a juicy glimpses class if you'd like to come on video with me and further discuss what came up in our glimpses class. And you said yes. And I happened to have some free time then, so I thought it was good time. And it was, but I don't know, I'm only knowing at that moment what's coming through me. So it feels exactly like it does as a separate person. When I mean by that, for people of different pathways, when I say a separate person, we're all agreeing that we're alive and that we have bodies and that we have feelings and thoughts. And then here's the nugget, Jeannie, that I want to work on after we describe what's been going on. Something gets superimposed on having a body, having thoughts, having feelings, and having things happen, your actions, other actions, superimposed, that makes us feel like we're separate people. All we actually really know is our aliveness, that we have thoughts, we have feelings, things happen, and we have a body. And all of this is what's been taught to us since we came into the world. You have a daughter. Is she your only child?
Yeah.
Okay. So when she came into the world, do you remember how you had to teach her, this is your toy, that's his toy, this is mine, that's yours. It was all one before that. And children come into the world without this experience of separation. It just feels like oneness. And then we teach them, this is good, this is bad, this is you, this is not you. So let's go back to how it started. It felt like, oh, this is a good idea. Let me write Jeannie and see. And then Jeannie says yes. But I have time and Jeannie doesn't have time. So then I say, well, maybe I try to take it out of the good idea, bad idea. It was a good enough idea to follow the prompt. And then it didn't go anywhere. Didn't hear from Jeannie, didn't make any stories about, oh, she doesn't want it, or she does want it, or she's busy, or no stories. It's not happening. That's fine too. It was fine to do it, it's fine not to do it. No stories. But what I want to point out is there's action anyway. There's action. I call you, I write you, or whatever, because we tend to think, oh, we're going to be like, if we're not the chooser, if we don't organize it with that kind of belief, we're not going to do anything. Why not just lay on the couch? No, you're going to get ideas. So then time goes by, Jeannie writes back, oh, blah, 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 here's my schedule. And it's not a good time for me. So I question, maybe whatever. I don't finish it with, maybe it's not going to happen. Maybe it's not a good idea. It's just not a fit now. So there's nothing to do on it. I don't even write you back with the conclusion. So if I believe that I am a separate person, then I would have written back to you in the responsible way. I would have said, oh, so sorry, I guess it's not going to work out because I'm busy now. And I can't even imagine with the deadlines I have that we can do it. Must have been not a good, I would have taken over, but that wasn't necessary. Just don't do anything. I had no, unless I got into that frame of being responsible, there was no need to do anything. So some more time went by, and who knows how it all went after that. But I'm just trying to show you the lack of clarity, and that's okay. We're only moving when there's movement. And when there's no movement, there's no need for a story. So,
and no need for the action of the response, which we've been conditioned into, right?
yeah, what a responsible person does, you get an email, you should answer. Well, I don't have an answer actually, except to know that it's not now, but maybe it's something different. Maybe tomorrow's different. I don't even go that far. I look for the action, look for the prompt, not from my head. My head will always give me the conditioned, separate person response. You wanted to know about higher self and ego. I don't think that's useful at your level. When you're learning about the ego, that's very important. If we don't know what an ego is, for anybody listening, or we don't know what that looks like, yes, read a book on what the ego is, to know how it's loud and it complains and it is critical, and it is also has another side that wants a lot of attention and wants to be right. Yeah, but not anymore for you. Because why? Why do I think that? Because you'll spend the rest of your life deciding, and you'll be absorbed in the wrong subject. It's a track that has no end. It's a track that, it'll keep the mind busy, but it has no end. So what to think about? If you're not going to think about higher self and ego And that then includes what you want. It includes intention. It includes most of your paragraph. It includes the doer. It includes what you want, goals, intentions, focus. I would love to see you experiment with having none of those. An experiment that you didn't do anything until there was a movement. And we'll talk about what kind of movement it would be. So here's what I want to replace all the ego and the higher self and the doer and all of that. It comes in a whole package. That's been another kind of teaching on top of the original teaching that we got from society. So then you had all of this, what's the higher self and all of that. I want to suggest that we were all trained, never mind our Enneagrams, never mind what level of society we came from, what our community was. We were all trained in good and bad. This is good, this is bad, this is better. And what we're perceiving as neutral, I would say, is just right in the middle. That it's right, still part of the good, bad package. And we're all focused on being good or doing the right things so that we feel better inside. But there's one more sneaky thing about this. And that's there's a hidden teaching that we've all had. Some of us have had it stronger, and others of us have just had it. But the teaching is you can become good by focusing on your badness. So if you focus on what you did wrong in 2023, then that will form what you're going to do, your intentions, your goals. You'll fix yourself by what you was not good enough in the last year.
Is shadow work part of that, or is that different?
It's still part of, let's just let it all go. Let's psychology, just for an experiment. Let's let Enneagrams go. Those things, shadow work, Enneagram, have their place when we're going from the separate person. And you make an application to college or some job. You're going to present yourself in your best self. You're going to get into it. But what if that wasn't the real world? What if that had a lighter touch? The touch that I'm playing in this make-believe world where I am a person. What if we just the superimposed person that we've taught? What I want to open up with you, Jeannie, because you're good at all that other stuff. You're a great Enneagram student. You become so knowledgeable. I'm sure you're a great Enneagram teacher. And the shadow work, it's all real, but it's only real as it affects a separate person. When you're working in the world, if you're going to negotiate with your family or your job, you're going to get into the role of a separate person. But I want to interrupt my own teaching here with, I think it's a great story. I think I mentioned this in glimpses, that I asked people something on Facebook, what they wanted and what they wanted less of. And everybody got in there, was really, I want more money, I want less of this and that, I want to lose weight, whatever they said. And then my friend wrote something very highly evolved. And it was something about how letting go all of that was so freeing. And then everybody was silenced and they went away with shame about wanting stuff. And then a few days later, she put, now this part you haven't heard, she put on Facebook this gorgeous mansion on a beach. And she said, "This is my new home. I'm going to get this." She was laughing. She put that on there with the lightest touch. Would she like that house? Sure. But it was with a lighter touch. And then that, and because of that lighter touch, because of the lack of belief that she needed it, that she was going to get it, that she was better if she got it. Do you see, are you hearing?
Yeah, lack of attachment. It's like just like you started, it good if I get it, good if I don't, like, you know.
And attachment, I'm trying to get away from the words we've been taught.
Mm.
Attachment, ego. We don't know how to do that. We are, if we're having this conversation, we're attached to a separate self. So how do I get unattached? The only way I know is to open up another pathway, another experience for you, for me, that has weight. It's not going to have maybe as much weight as your life's conditioning, but what if it was so attractive that you were interested in more experimenting? So, so what if you long to be out of the paradigm of good and bad? It's so tiring, is it not? Who listening? We're both, when you get in there, it's never enough. Your weight is never good enough, or whatever it is you're working on. It's never good enough. There's always more you can do, right? I mean, it's endless. There's no peace. There is no peace in the outer world unless you have that light touch to it, where you're not believing it's who you are, this person who is worthy or unworthy. You're neither. You're not that.
I think that's a big one, that worthy and unworthy, that is
But it catches us. But that's also because there's something that holds us to the unworthy. And that's where we're taught that we can fix ourselves if we look hard enough at what's bad. I'm using the word bad to make it, to get out of the worthy, unworthy, what's not good enough. I want to make it really simple. So we don't, because the ego will get hold of it and make it so complex because it loves that. It keeps you stuck and you stay there. But so what is it? What is your experience with when we've at glimpses, let's say you were upset about something and it was a 6 or an 8, and then we do a little bit of a meditation that takes you out and it goes down to a 2 because you've not focused on it, or like my book that you've enjoyed where you've gotten into when Jeanne plays games and gets off the subject. Why does she feel better? What is she letting go of? What's your experience? What's your frame? What are you letting go of?
Oh, I mean, I think the visual that you have of dropping the rope, the tug of war, and that tug of war, you talked about, we're taught to fix ourselves by looking at the bad. So if we clean all that up, then, we'll be okay. Well, the flip side of that is the super law of attraction. Well, let me just focus on all the light aspects of myself. And it's the same coin,
Same
and
thing.
to drop that. So because then in the mind it's like, how am I scaling, how much of my goodness do I have, is it outweighing the bad, and all that get out. So to just drop that completely, and and then it's the unknown, right?
Okay, so let's go to the unknown right now. And so you painted a beautiful picture of what it's like for all of us to be a person, the person that we think of ourselves, separate, a doer, whatever your language is for your personality. And we have regrets and we have the future. And it's a tug of war, whether you're fixing or you're repenting or wherever you are in the cycle. So exhausting. But there's something that's aware of that, but it's not that. There is something that we're both aware of. It comes from our aliveness. It doesn't have a body. It doesn't have a form. It doesn't even have preferences, but it is alive. We're not saying that the dead aren't also part of this, but we're very aware of our aliveness. Are you aware of your aliveness? Do you have to check your pulse to be sure you're alive?
No.
No, we know we're alive. We don't know what this is, so we discount it.
Yeah.
But it's always here. It's knowing, it's observing. What if we had a new name for it? What name would you want to give it? If we say nothing, that has a negative ring. The nothingness, nobody wants the nothingness except people who have been doing this. It turns out the nothingness becomes everything. It becomes the dropping of the rope, but it has not such a good ring. Do you have, by any chance, any German in your background? I'm just wondering from your last name. Is there?
I think it is on my husband's side, but I
Yeah.
happen to speak German. I lived there for a year.
Oh, okay. Did you ever hear the word beschert
Yeah.
while you? Yes. And did it have what would you say it means?
I want to bring up like another Jewish Yiddish word, like, kismet or something else.
Yes,
Um,
yes, no, that's fine. So it's but it's a has a different connotation, would you say, than fate here, right? Fate can be negative. You're fated to do this,
yeah.
right? People aren't excited about their fate if you use that word here. It's
Right.
tricky. But beshared is it's your destiny.
That's what I,
It's right. It's but it has a more neutral, more positive. Why would you fight your destiny? That would be foolish. Kismet, it has a very romantic, right? Doesn't it have kind of a romantic uh, uh, connotation or not?
I don't know, but like the synchronicity, like that for
Yeah,
sure, where you
it's
don't, it's the lack of responsibility in both cases. Like you're not responsible for your destiny, and you don't have to make your destiny happen, right? That's not destiny then. I don't know.
exactly. And everything you brought up in that paragraph I read was about free choice.
Yeah.
Every single thing was about free choice. But who is it that has free choice? It's only the separate person. Who else could be choosing? It's what if we took all of this, not as bad, not as spiritually lower, not as low ego or no judgment. What if we just took it as the superimposition? It's been superimposed on us. I like that phrase, imposed. Nobody asked for this teaching. We all just got it. And what's your experience when you have focused on your shortcomings? Did you get a whole lot better in the long run at it? And pick anything, any shortcoming.
Oh,
Perceived shortcoming. Because if it's fate, if
impatient.
it's shared, it's not a shortcoming. It's supposed to be. Everything is supposed to be exactly as it is. Exactly. Yeah, I take a deep breath.
Yeah. I can
Exactly.
feel the relief of that already because there's such a judgment with impatience. And I've been feeling and carrying the um weight of that and the judgment of that, self-judgment. I mean,
Yeah.
but also it was superimposed, right? And a lot of indoctrination. And when you said, what if that's how it's meant to be? It's like, oh, it was a relief.
And so I'm inviting everyone who's listening to take in, and Jeannie and I will stay in that moment of the relief. If it's all was shared, if we have interwoven destinies, that's another phrase I've fallen in love with, because we can appreciate every moment, whether we liked it or we didn't. Somebody cut me off I was trying to make a left turn in a lane, and somebody came right behind me. I say cut me off because he cut off my vision. I couldn't see the cars that were coming. And I went, okay. That's a very surprising thing to do in a turn lane. It just happened today. And then we both turned, and then he got in front of me, and then he turned right into where I was turning. I thought, isn't that surprising? We're both going the same place. And then he cut out. He was like avoiding the traffic by zigzagging through a parking place. And I was like, oh, we're supposed to have met. Oh, he really made an impression on me. So if I don't judge him, I just take him in. He was in a hurry. I know that, like the clock, you're late, whatever. I totally know. I don't know his story, but I know that place. There's nothing anyone can do that I haven't in some form done or felt or thought. And then he avoided the traffic by zigzagging through this place that I bet is 1 in 100 things of avoiding the traffic, but that we had an interwoven destiny today. I was supposed to meet him. If my traffic had been blocked and then I pulled out and hit a car, that too was so it's the destiny that you and I get to know each other. It's not just the good. We say grace when it's the good. No, grace has to be it all. If there is any grace, it's everything. And so, listeners, what if you took the thing you've been trying to fix about yourself, about somebody else, and took it, instead of your being separate? We know you're human. We know you have thoughts, we have feelings. You will operate in the world as though you're separate. But what if you took it lightly as just, this is a plaything you're doing for right now? You're supposed to be doing it, and you're supposed to be doing it like you're the actor in a play, putting on your very best performance. Do it with all of your lust, all of your enthusiasm. Put all of it into it and know that it's really nothing. It's really just what you're being asked to play with today. And you'll do your best. You won't lay on the couch with no free choice. You will be moved. You will be moved at every moment. It's just a question of who are you assigning to the motivation? Is it you, the separate self? Or does destiny say, even get a drink of water? It's not just for the big things. If it exists at all, it's for everything. And this, if you're a course student or if you're a Gary Bernard, what's his last name? Not Bernard, Gary Bernard. If you're a person who said, if you've done enough forgiveness, there's a little free choice or whatever it is, those are compassionate compromises for the separate self. We needed to hear these things in our learning paths. There either is a separate self or there isn't. There's either free choice or there isn't. And this trying to, I know I may lose a lot of listeners. I'm more interested in the truth and sharing what has brought me peace than I am in saying what's popular. So make your decision and make it on the basis of, is your life more peaceful and relaxing by seeing it as destiny? It's not that you won't try to be the kindest person around or helpful. You will, because that's our nature. But you don't need to do the mind feeling thought business that keeps us trapped.
Especially the mind part, the perseverating on the what if, right? And then what, and then what, and then what, versus just the one step, like what. And you demonstrated that with the example of our getting together. It's like not even needing to reply. I don't need to reply. There's no reply. This isn't working, and when the next inspired move comes, I'll reach out or whatever.
Yeah.
Which I really appreciate. It's because I feel just noticing the awareness of how much is conditioned response, right? And how much energy, like I look at the texting, like, okay, what's the appropriate way to text to let them know that, so like care of the other, what's the, and it's like, and if you just let go and know they're cared for, you don't have to do anything.
Yeah. And if you live everything by the movement, if there's no movement, do nothing. If it's a little movement, do a little thing and be willing to change courses. So you don't have to have intentions, you don't have to have focus, you don't have to have goals. And sometimes when you have intentions, or desired outcomes, you're limiting what can happen. You're limiting what's possible. And if you're not a separate person, you don't have to do that because you're cared for, and so is everyone else. And it's not about what you've achieved to be cared for. It's everyone.
Well, this is great because at the beginning of the year, it's all about, visions and goals, and of course a lot about the body, like what am I going to do with this body? And a lot of fear triggered, generally associated with it because we're enculturated to, you need all these things, right? So I feel the lightness of just following the inspired movement. And particularly what I hear you saying is not having to know for the sake of what. Like, I'm inspired to do this. Like, I don't have to make a year commitment plan. Like, we can see if something as simple as
Change course at any moment and then change again. If, you know, I thought I wasn't going to do this. Now now it seems like I am. If you're not a separate person, there's nothing to be embarrassed about. You don't have to apologize. You don't, the movement was there and now it's not, or here it is again. And you will anyway. That's the thing. The more you get into this, and that's what I really would like to have you experiment. Take a day, say, you've done things for 3 days. You can do for a half day. Listeners, take an hour and say, for this hour, I'm going to believe I belong to the oneness. I belong to the divine. I am the divine. There is only the Bashar. There is only creation and the creator. It's all one. And let me just follow. Let me see what that's like. Does it lighten my load? I don't have to second guess. I did it. I didn't do it. I ate this. I didn't eat it. You're going to do it anyway. It's just you can let go of the commentary. So whatever it was you were supposed to eat and drink, you did it and you're going to do it. I know people are very attached to this belief that we're so bad that we're just going to do bad. We're just going to eat badly. We're just going to drink ourselves into oblivion. Experiment. Experiment not with how bad you are. You've had a lifetime of that. Experiment with just listening and doing only what comes to you. If it's get a glass of water, eat some ice cream, just do it without the commentary, as though everything is the divine.
as if it's the destiny and like that you're just
Everything, the small and the large. It's, and also, if you're at all intrigued, don't try to fit it into a spiritual program that you're in, or, because that will take you back into no man's land. You'll be figuring it out. You'll be between programs. You'll be what you learned here and how you believe this, and take a little from here, and you'll just be spinning. I promise. Everybody does that. But this involves it's what do they call it? The no path. It has no path except the divine. There is no format for what you should do next. Not this or this, or it is so freeing. I know it's scary, but when I went to India and first learned this, the guru, as he was called in India, said, see which gives you more peace. Try out free choice and notice, and try out this. In India, more than in this country, they are very clear. There is no choice. Here in non-duality, people are a little softer about it because everybody will go away here. Nobody will even listen, because so we have to have compromises to speak to the person before they're there, before they're ready, or they won't even hear some of the steps to get there.
yeah, developmental stages. Yeah.
Yeah. And we're all on a sort of progressive path, but we can feel what you experienced, the relief directly at any moment. We don't need a teacher. We don't need anything. Just letting it go, like we're not in charge. Yay. So tired of being in charge and doing things incorrectly or not as good as I could have or whatever. And so, do I still hear those things? Yes, but I don't take them seriously as truth. I did a podcast that was so important to me because these two men are doing such beautiful work. And it was such an honor to be on their podcast. And then afterwards, I thought of, well, I should have said this or I could have said that. It's almost laughable. That's just old training. I don't believe in it. I believe in I was supposed to say exactly what I said. Why? Not because I think it's better. It's because I did. That is what I said. And if everything is shared, well, I guess I just didn't know what I was supposed to say. And I can let it go because it gives me so much comfort. So that's what I want for you and Jeannie. I desire that you spend more time with the Bashert to see what a relief it is. Play with it and see with your own experience, does it bring more relief? Does it bring more relaxation? And now you're so much more open. Do you feel more loving now? Like if somebody asks you something, would you be more inclined than when you started this hour to feel like you had a lot to give?
Yeah, and a lot less defensive, just like, you know, yeah, like if that car situation happened, yeah,
Yeah,
something like that.
yeah.
Not taking it personally at all, and not, yeah. So lightness, much more lightness.
This has been fantastic, way better than I could have imagined. I think our listeners are going to be so in love with this conversation because I think it's where so many people live and we need to talk about it. Um, and we
And
need to go ahead.
and the examples you give really help call it out, what it looks like, right? And what I hear over and over is not knowing and not having to know and not investing any mental energy on figuring anything out.
Yeah, and when you make up your story, as we all will, oh, I should have said this or whatever, it doesn't mean anything. It's like the little girl in the story of when wisdom arrives from imagined unworthiness to freedom. It's when she stops thinking about her weight. She starts living in that place of okayness. She plays games because she's 11, but we can drop the rope at any moment.
Well, and I so appreciate you for the work you do, that book, and what I share with you, and that wanting people to love who they are and to appreciate who we are.
And if we're not bad, then we don't even have to love ourselves because we're not separate people and we're not lovable or not lovable. We get off that paradigm of being good enough. That we just get to be in our beingness and be part of creation, be part of the world. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. See how sneaky it is? It's like the good side. Like just yeah.
Yeah, and but that can make it can be fun. We can find it and let it go. Find it and let it go. And we don't get a permanent judgment of we're not there yet. There, I don't know about there because we have to live in the world where somebody blocks your view on, when you're driving and whatever happens. We're part of the world, but we don't have to take that world as more real than this other world that doesn't have a form. but is always present, and it's reliable. It's never unkind. It's always that nothingness that is so peaceful. It's a holding self. It's always there to hold that separate being until they remember that maybe they're not a person. Find your own language. If that's too startling, then say personality or say separate person. Find your own words to make it playable, to play with it. Because if it's too scary, just go, oh, I don't understand what that means. I'm a person. Well, yeah, you are alive, and you have a personality, and you have a look, and you have an age, and you have a body form. But what that means is the superimposition. We have said what that means. Oh, I'm old. Oh, you're middle-aged. Oh, she's fat. Oh, she's thin. Oh, whatever. We have a story about it. That's what's not real. The stories. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosalind. I always love hearing you riff. This is awesome. And getting
Thank you
to
so much.
thanks.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone. Thanks for joining us.